All right, guys. So I'm just going to go based on the screen. I see Mandarin, and I see your mouth is moving. I can't hear you. Spanish, we good to go? Wonderful. Portuguese. Great. Arabic? Fantastic. Cantonese? All right. Haitian Creole? Fantastic. And then Vietnamese? All right, great. And I see our 2 ASL interpreters there, so we are good to go this evening. Thank you, Fox Translation. Recording.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome aboard to the school committee meeting. Today is Monday, May 6th, 2024. The time is 6:02 p.m. Our next meeting will take place on Thursday, June 6th at 6 p.m. here in the council chamber. So please make note that we're going to move the meeting that was previously scheduled on June 3rd to June 6th. Again, June 6th, Thursday, 6 p.m. This evening, we will, as we always do, pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for all those who have served our country. Our clerk will then take attendance to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to come together for tonight's meeting. And then we will get into this evening's agenda, which consists of the following. First up would be the approval of minutes from April 1st, 2024, followed by public comment, which will be for 15 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. We'll then move on to our superintendent, who will give district updates and highlights and also discuss the Student Opportunity Act from 2024 going forward to 2027. Then under subcommittee reports and discussions, we'll hear from the chair of the Budget Subcommittee, Ms. Spadafora, Superintendent Search Committee, Ms. Spadafora, which has been requested that we take that out of order and address that first. If any objections, chair has none. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg will talk about what's been going on with policy and procedures. Then under motions and resolutions, there are 3. The first one is a donation from Stone and Bank to the class of 2024. Ms. Spadafora will introduce that. Then we have a donation from Quincy Butter to the Linden Field Day Committee, and Ms. Spadafora will also talk about that. And then finally, staying with Ms. Spadafora, the superintendent search candidate recommendation, which may be taken up at the outset of our meeting. We get through that, then there'll be points of personal privilege from the school committee members, and then from there we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for 3 reasons. The first is Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 28, Subsection A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Open meeting law, to review and approve executive session minutes from April 1st, 2024. Item number 2 is under the same heading, but to review and discuss the release of redacted executive session minutes from June 7th, 2021. And then finally, we're going to discuss an open meeting law complaint as follows. May 3rd, 2024, filed by Brian DeLacy / Malden News Network against the Malden Public Schools Superintendent Search Committee, number 34. I don't know if the 34 represents the number of times he's filed a complaint, or is that something else?
That's the amount of
the amount,
open meeting
okay.
law violations.
Very good. Then from there, we'll come back out. I don't know if we'll act on anything in executive session, but either way, we will then move adjournment until our next meeting. So any questions on the agenda from the members? All right, chair hears none. So let's take roll call. Oh yeah, we're going to pledge allegiance, then we'll do roll call. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point, we just ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so around the world today. Thank you. Now we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mayor Christensen,
Here.
Mr. Drummy,
Here.
Mr. McCarthy,
Here.
Ms. Spadafora,
Here.
Ms. Macklin, Ms. Orty, Mr. Gray,
Here.
Mr. Bernard, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, Superintendent Noriega Murphy, Student Representative Hopel.
All right, so we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to come together. Let's get into this evening's agenda. Again, we're first going to take up item number 2 under subcommittee reports and discussions. So, Ms. Spadafora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members, for allowing us to take this up before any other items. I requested that because we have some members of the Superintendent Search Committee here with us this evening. And if they don't mind doing so, approaching the podium for this particular agenda item would be greatly appreciated. Don't be shy. Yep. Thanks, guys. In addition to a few people that couldn't make it tonight, but we also have Ms. Sharon Rose-Zeiberg, who is on the school committee that co-chaired the search committee with all of us. So just some background, I'd like to just read a memo that went out to all the members in regards to the search, and that is, the Malden Superintendent Search Committee met over a 3-month period to prepare for the search process and conduct an initial screening of applications and interviews with candidates. A total of 14 individuals submitted complete application packages. The search committee invited 7 candidates to interview, one of whom withdrew to accept a position in another district. 6 candidates were formally interviewed. It now becomes the responsibility of the school committee to establish the final stages of the search process that will include scheduling dates for the candidates to visit Malden, meet stakeholders, and engage the school committee in a formal public interview. The Malden School Committee owes a debt of gratitude to the members of the search committee who diligently reviewed all submitted materials, prepared questions, and interviewed the candidates before deliberating thoughtfully and thoroughly in making their recommendations. The committee voted to submit the following candidates to the school committee for formal public interviews. They are presented in alphabetical order, and they are Brent Conway, Assistant Superintendent, Pawtucket Regional School District; Robin Desmond, Chief Academic Officer, Lowell Public Schools; Timothy Sipple, Executive Director of Schools, Worcester Public Schools; and Paul Texier, Director of English Learners in Title III, Medford Public Schools. So I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for your time, your commitment, your dedication to the process, the open and honest conversations that were had behind closed doors to ensure that the future leader of this district is chosen based on qualifications, skills, everything that Malden is looking for. And I know as I say thank you, my fellow members up here also appreciate the hard work and dedication that was put forth. I'd like to, before we move on to a motion, also open it up to if any members have any questions on the process, not to put you guys or us on the spot, but if any members had any questions on what we have been doing the past 2.5 months in the Forestdale Library.
Questions of the members? Any questions? Let's see, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of just a clarification when it comes to the candidate interviews. Are we going to be interviewing on 2 separate nights with 2 candidates each? Is that how that's going to work?
Correct.
Okay.
So it will now be up to the committee to work with MASC. And if Mr. Glenn Kuchar could approach the podium. Sorry, Glenn. He's had a long day. Today was the MASC Day on the Hill for our school committee members, so. So we will be working with Mr. Kuchar, as we have been for the past 3 months, and working with candidates on their availability to come into the district for public interviews, touring schools, meeting with community members, as well as district employees. Did I hit that all on?
That is correct. The candidates will come and visit, and at the end of the day, they are often interviewed. Sometimes it's done with 2 candidates simultaneously visiting different places the same day, and then interviewing 2 in the evening. It can be any way that you prefer. The key is that from this point on, everything is public. And none of the candidates have the expectation of confidentiality after this point. So the public will have an opportunity to observe every phase of the final stage.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar.
Thank you.
Building on Mr. McCarthy's question, you envision this happening over the next 2 weeks?
I would like to, of course,
Yeah,
interviews next week. We do have to take into account, we will have a special meeting for us to deliberate publicly as well. But as you know, our current superintendent will no longer be here effective June 30th, so I think time is of the essence in which we, not to put a rush, but also understand where we stand as in time and bring somebody in. Also, some of these candidates could be interviewing elsewhere, so if we find that we are interested in 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be, we may want to start that process or get it moving a little bit quicker to maybe snag the one that we really want, or
okay.
so.
So members would start looking to clear your schedules next week. Who will be coordinating all of that?
I will be working with Mr. Kuchar.
Okay.
As he, or myself and Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Okay, so expect a request this week for next week.
Absolutely.
2 nights,
Yes,
and potential third to vote? Or would that be the week after?
100%. Potential third, there'll definitely be 3 meetings.
Yeah.
2 interviews, a deliberation night, within the next, say, 2 weeks, yeah.
Okay. Questions on that, everyone? Any questions? Are you good, Mr. McCarthy?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, anybody else?
You guys
Let's go to
can
Miss,
sit down. Oh,
Miss Macklin. You're not alone, Miss Macklin. Hold on, there we go.
I was just curious, Ms. Spadafora, how soon you would get those dates to us so that we can plan our schedule?
oh, I will work with Mr. Kuchar tomorrow
Okay, awesome.
and get things on the calendar, absolutely. Because I know all of us will be rearranging home life to make this a priority, so.
And how long do we anticipate these sessions to be? Maybe 2 hours, 3 hours?
I don't know if Glenn has
Or
already
what is the
sat down
typical-
again. I would say we were doing 75 minutes
Okay,
a candidate, so approximately 3 hours in
Okay.
total. So if we were scheduling, I'd say expect a 6 to 9 p.m. Maybe Tuesday's going to be off the books because council chambers will be taken up by
Sure.
city council. So a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday for those dates.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Thank you, Miss Macklin. Anybody else? Okay. Just want to join with Ms. Spadafora in saying thank you. I have served on many search committees. I know it's involved, and we truly appreciate your hard work and dedication. So what we'll do now is
I'm going to make a motion.
to
Let me
move
make
these
sure I get this
candidates.
right.
Yeah,
So the motion would be to accept the following 4 finalists for superintendent as recommended by the Superintendent Search Committee and begin the formal public process for Brent Conway, Robin Desmond, Timothy Sipple, and Paul Texera.
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Any final questions, everyone? Ms. Macklin?
All four together
Correct.
or separately?
Together.
Okay.
Ms. Macklin, clarify that question again.
I was curious if we were voting as a group.
To move-
Not this group, but the four
The four-
finalists.
To move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was just, curious if anyone had any question about any one of them, that we're grouping them together.
Well, they came out of subcommittee grouped,
Okay.
as these were the 4 finalists chosen by the subcommittee, and I would suspect that we would give them all the opportunity to come before us, even if one maybe you had looked into it, didn't seem on paper, put them before us.
But
So-
members always preserve the right, if they
Sure.
want to make an additional motion, that we not do one and do 3 or do none. I mean, that's within the members' prerogative. So,
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm good to vote
Yeah,
as a
okay.
group.
all right, thank you, Ms. Macklin. Anybody else? Mr. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question per se. I just want to make sure that it goes on the record that we, especially I, have the utmost faith in the skills and talent of the search committee members, and that they're giving us the best, most talented people possible. I just want to say, on behalf of us all, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Anybody else? All right, hearing none, why don't we roll call this one, Madam Clerk? Let me get your mic.
Mr. Drummond? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spadafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Hardy? Yes. Mr. Gray? Yes. Mr. Bernard? Yes. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Yes. Mayor Christensen?
Yes. So that carries unanimously. Back to Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you. I just would be remiss, as I thanked the Superintendent Search Committee, Ms. Maria Louise from the Mayor's Office, who wasn't an official member per se, a voting member, but she was there to make sure all the i's were dotted and the t's were crossed, and we are most appreciative of your dedication as well. As I want to thank Ms. Kashana Harling, our DEI coordinator from Malden, who was also not a voting member, but was there to bring input and another lens to the process. So, and then lastly, not too big of a thank you to Mr. Kuchar and Alicia Malin, because you're still going to be with us for a couple more weeks. But thank you thus far for your picking up the phone every single time I called, which was, well, me and Sharon, which were probably a lot of calls. So thank you. And again, thank you to all for just being there for the process.
Yeah, Maria said today, does this mean I have to go back to working with me? So that's the one
I
negative.
will take her. We'll take her.
You're not alone. All right, everyone, so there you have it. Now, let's get back to the regularly scheduled agenda here. So first up is the minutes of April 1st, 2024. Motion by Mr. Drummond, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions on those? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, everyone. We're now at public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. Public comment is open for 15 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dawn O'Toole. I live at 130 Adams Street in Malden. On February 23rd of this year, the Massachusetts Scholastic Press Association recognized 12 outstanding students at its 2024 All-State High School Journalism Staff. Malden High School's Blue and Gold co-editors-in-chief Daniel O'Toole and Hajar Yousfi both received this incredible honor. They both attended the New England Scholastic Press Association's annual spring conference at Boston University on Friday, May 3rd, where they were recognized for this accomplishment. As the proud parent of one of the recipients, I was looking forward to both of them being celebrated somewhere district-wide, either in the newsletter or at the school committee district updates, to highlight the academic achievements of our Malden Public School students. By no means am I trying to diminish the amazing successes of our athletic teams, but when will academic triumphs be held in that same esteem? I was happy hearing about the 7 students selected to receive the prestigious Posse and Questbridge scholarships, but we as caregivers and stakeholders in Malden want to hear more about all the great accomplishments of all of our students in all of our schools, both in academics and extracurriculars. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the committee can do so now. Good evening.
Good evening, Bonnie Littlejohn, 127 Emerald Street. And I'm much better at emails than speaking to all of you. As you are well aware from my previous emails to the committee, there is an issue at Malden High School regarding violations to multiple IEPs of students. To make this as clear as possible, Malden High School special education teacher A moves into team chair position. Other currently employed special ed teachers fill in the vacancy of this special education teacher A. No communication to caregivers about this change occurred. Fast forward almost 3 months, these currently employed special ed teachers who filled the vacancy are no longer filling in the vacancy, and no other special ed teachers are placed in these classes. The result, special education students are without their services by special education teachers, required by law through their IEPs, plus all of the general ed teachers who co-taught with the special ed teachers now have double the responsibility, as their special ed co-teacher is no longer there, and they have a class full of gen ed students and special ed students on IEPs. Again, no communication to caregivers about this change has occurred. Caregivers are not told that their student's IEP has been violated. Unless their student discusses it, as my child did, and caregivers are aware of the violation, caregivers do not know about any of these changes and violations, but this parent knows. This is not just about my child. This affects many special education students and general education teachers. I have been advocating for the many special ed students and general education teachers this has been affecting, but nothing has been done. It's been over 1 month since these special ed students and general ed teachers have had a special education teacher in their classrooms. Plus, caregivers are unaware that their student's IEP has been violated. I have addressed this in the proper manner, but have been told inconsistent facts. I just want these special ed students to receive the support and services they need by the properly certified teachers so that they can work through their disabilities and have a chance to succeed. I also want the gen ed teachers this situation affects to not have the extra burden and responsibilities forced on them as their co-taught special ed teacher is no longer in the class. Please, I urge and almost beg of all of you in this room who can collaborate and do something about this situation to do so immediately. It has already been too long. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Anybody online? All right, everyone, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. We're now on to the superintendent's report. Let's turn to the superintendent.
Thank you. Good evening, and Mr. O'Toole, thank you for that feedback. I will make sure that we pay more attention to those details. I apologize. And of course, I know I'm not supposed to engage, but yes, thank you for that, and we will continue making sure all the students get the services and the acknowledgements. Ms. Little John, yes, I heard you loud and clear. Thank you. We have two wonderful senior students in here tonight who took the charge of the student survey that was requested by school committee members. And we have Aiden Luciano and Nick Dugan, who are going to present the data about a survey from the high school. Aiden Luciano, a senior, is going to go to Westfield State University in the honors program. Nick is still undecided, even though a lot of schools want you to. And we want to make sure that they're going to come up and present their data. And can you both come to the podium and present the student survey data? Thank you so much.
Good evening.
So, hello, my name is Aiden Luciano. I'm joined by Malden High's, the best of the best, Nick Duggan. Today, we're here to present the findings of our student survey that was produced, I believe, the beginning of February, to show back to the school committee the needs and wants of students at Malden High. To clarify, questions 2, 3, and 8's data will not add up to 100%, as students were given multiple choices for multiple things. So Nick is gonna start us off.
Yeah, so as he said, we analyzed about 160 students' responses about what their interests and where they lie. And so on the first thing that we're going to be looking at today is going to be the courses that people are interested in seeing at Malden High. And so at the top of them, we see that home and career, that total around 58.5%. Then we have chemistry of foods / cooking at 37.1%, astronomy 31.4%, philosophy 20.1%, dance 17.6%, international relations 17%, engineering to home economics 11%, and poetry with the lowest at 10.1%. And this is basically showing that just a lot of students at Malden High are really interested in seeing classes that support life skills such as, cooking and things that they can see using at home and in the workplace environment.
Moving on to slide 3. Students were asked what world languages they would like to see offered at Malden High. I believe the highest at 42% was Portuguese, 40% Mandarin, 27% Arabic, 18% Latin, and others totaling 18%, which contain languages stemming from Japanese, hieroglyphics, and Russian. And I have advocated for this, we'll call it quote-unquote issue, since my sophomore year. I believe it was the first time I met Dr. Noriega.
Yeah.
I had advocated for the need for more world languages within Malden High.
All right, and if we're moving on to the next question, this is going to be basically the opinions of the 80-minute schedule, which has been implemented, I think, around 4 years ago, and kind of seeing where people are at regarding this policy. So around 58% of the people surveyed favored this report, 35% were against the 80-minute period, 6% merely said they do not really have an opinion, and I'd like to put an emphasis on the 58% that were favored this proposal. A lot of them were teachers which vocalized that they really are interested within this 80-minute schedule, which was implemented within the high school, because it gave them more time to both plan lessons and also just reduce stress because they don't have the same class every single day, which they have to plan for.
Moving on to slide 5, students were asked, do you know what the graduation requirements are? 3.1% said no. I'm hoping those are just freshmen. 35% said a little bit, and 61% said yes. I'm hoping that 61% is all seniors, but God only knows. Go ahead, Nick.
All right, and so on the 6th slide, we'll see that we basically surveyed the class sizes because, as we know, class sizes is a big thing on academic performance and how it kind of results in the learning abilities. And so we saw that kids, on average, reported about 19.47 students, so around just 19.5. And the smallest class size that we reported was about 7.5 students. And I'd just like to say positively that 19.5 students is a pretty good number for a class size because the average one in the US is about 20 to 21 students. So right now we are meeting those guidelines and we're doing pretty well in the classroom.
Moving on to slide 7, students were asked, do you feel like you've been informed about various clubs that are available at MHS? 27% said no, 39% said a little bit, and 33% said yes. And I believe me and Nick both agree as students at Malden High that it's one of the best outlets for students to join clubs, especially in the freshman year. But being freshmen ourselves, well, online freshmen ourselves, it's kind of scary to just go out there and just try to be part of a group. And I feel like we just need to advocate for students a little more to just come out and just take it, you know? Go ahead, Nick.
All right, and then kind of building off of what he said, of the people that said they aren't really in a club currently, we asked them if they have not participated in a club, what are the factors that contribute to the decision, because we just kind of want to see why they're not really engaging with all the opportunities at Malden High. And from that, we saw that 48.4% demonstrated that they have time constraints but do not allow them to participate in these extracurriculars. 39% said they weren't interested. 29.6% said they are not really aware of the clubs at Malden High. And 15.1% said that they are just uncomfortable with joining these clubs. And I'd just like to add to that and actually, there's also 12.7% that said there was other reasons, and 1.3% which said that they have participated in clubs. But just as I said earlier, I'd like to put an emphasis on 3 of the reasons which were not interested, not aware of clubs, and uncomfortable. I feel like Malden High just has an extremely wide range of clubs and opportunities for these kids to join. And so I feel like it is kind of our ability and our thing that we should be working on, trying to get these kids into clubs, because I feel like that will tell them what their interests are and prepare them a little bit more for life, especially if we already have those extracurriculars and opportunities available at Malden High.
Moving on to slide 9, students were asked if they are aware of the various support services available to students at MHS. 15% said no, 38% said a little bit, and 46% said yes. And I think this is one of the most important slides that we have up here, as these outlets are just so important to students just to utilize and figure out that they're there just in case. I think it's needed.
And then adding on to what he said, it isn't really on the slide currently, but
It is.
oh, it is? Yeah. Oh, okay. It is on the slide now. So of the things that students have utilized at Malden High, we see that school guidance counselors at the top with 54.1%. Then we have the College and Career Center, where students are able to get support going to college and getting their applications, finding jobs, with 36.5%. We have 25.2%, which said they've never really utilized the systems at Malden High. Then we have 20.8%, which said that they go to rely on the social workers at Malden High. 11.9%, which said that they use the college application support. 8.2% said they use Malden Safe. 6.9% said they use peer tutoring. And lastly, 3.1% said that they use other. And of these percentages, I'd say the one that I think we should be looking at most is, even though that we do have a lot of students using the opportunities at Malden High, again, I feel like we have 25.2%, which said they've never really utilized some of these opportunities. And a lot of them are just really valuable, like the College Career Center, which gets people jobs, uses MySEP, which the mayor is trying to connect students with, connects with programs such as the YMCA. Then we have things like social workers, which kind of help students get through the day and get through the support they need. So I feel like if we already have these systems in place, as I said earlier, we should be trying to push these students towards them a little bit more. But overall, I think it looks pretty good on the other percentages.
To circle back to slide 3 and advocate one last time for adding more world languages into Malden High, I believe in order to break down racial barriers and foster empathy, it is crucial for our diverse high school to prioritize the learning of languages spoken by the district's most populous ethnicities. It goes beyond simply learning words. It involves delving into the rich history of each culture. By prompting this understanding, we can contribute to breaking down social and racial issues one lesson at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your attention today. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear the survey, which we
Of course. Stand by for questions. Questions of the members. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Guys, thank you so much for this presentation, for this information. The only question that I have when it comes to the clubs at Malden High, what is currently being done right now to advertise for these clubs within the student population?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Well, most students, I believe, they have well, bigger clubs have Instagram pages that gain traction very easily, but most, especially the small ones, they put up flyers throughout the building, but students don't have that time between, their classes to, as they say, stop and smell the roses or stop and read the signs.
Right.
To look at them and read what these clubs are.
Okay. So typically, who would, engage, students at the high school for trying to get them involved in different clubs and different activities like that?
So normally at the beginning of each year, I think some of you might have heard it, we have the club fair, which happens early September.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a fair where all the incoming freshmen can go and kind of browse around the clubs. The only thing that I see as a big inefficiency as one of the people advertising some of the clubs over there is that a lot of freshmen that walk around and kind of put their names on sheets and never really get involved.
Right.
I feel like we should, as they are freshmen and they don't really know their interests, we should be we have many times throughout the day where there's availability. We have the morning meetings, which are in the morning, which basically students come in, they, talk to their homeroom teacher, get a little bit of advice. We have advisory period, which you guys, got implemented this year, maybe where we can advertise to these freshmen about ideas and opportunities available at Malden High. So I just feel like there's many different places which we can let these students know about opportunities that can be implemented in clubs. But I do feel like there's the clubs out there, but besides for the club fair at the beginning and flyers around the school, sometimes there's just students that even though, you can be advertising for hours and hours, will never really get the message.
Good, yeah, so I mean, I think obviously, like I said before, obviously getting, your fellow peers involved with these different types of clubs is, obviously you would agree, it's very, very important. So yeah, anything you guys can do to kind of get people involved in joining these clubs, I think it would be, obviously beneficial to them. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Let's go to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious if you have any additional information, the 35% of students who were against the 80-minute class periods. Do you know any kind of split? Did they want shorter or longer, or what was the feedback, or was it just a simple question?
I believe what students that sided most with that had advocated for a 5-minute break in between, just to break it up and just make that 80-minute class more manageable. I think, I personally, as somebody that goes through that 80-minute block, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Other questions? Let's go to Ms. Hording.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, gentlemen. I have a couple questions for you. One, when you talked about availability of courses, it says home, career, life skills. Did you guys have examples that you offered students, or did students offer you examples in that category? I'm just wondering about some specifics.
So we gave students, I believe, 6 to 7 options they could choose from, but they also had the option to put their own. And that varied just because of spelling, grammar issues, and weird spaces, it put it into other categories. So we just rounded that out into others, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then although we have the things which we know people are interested in, we could definitely send out another survey to kind of see the specific interests which people would be interested within it. Right now, we kind of know that people are interested in life skills and home, kind of cooking and stuff like that, but we can definitely kind of expand on that if we're thinking about making a class kind of directed at trying to address getting students kind of prepared for the real life as they get older.
And I have another question for you about, it's the last slide, I don't remember the numbers and I don't have them on here. In regards to student support services, one, have either of you used any of these student support services? I have to ask. And two, how did you, as students at Malden High, find out about them?
That's fine. I think I've used all of these but peer tutoring. I don't know. I can't do that for some reason. Personally, I've used the College and Career Center. I used it to apply to all of my colleges. I think, honestly, without it, I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't know what I was doing without that. The school social workers, when it comes to just life in general. When it comes to talking with those people, especially my school guidance counselors as well, I know that's not what the guidance counselors are there for, but it's such a stress relief to be able to walk into such a stressful situation, especially just in the building, and then have those people you can talk to. It's the best.
Yeah. And the things which I use probably the most are just gonna be the school guidance counselors to change classes, to ask some kind of recommendations about what they recommend for classes, and the college career center, because as you know, Aiden said, I feel like there's a lot of unknown stuff when you're applying to colleges, and I feel like the college career center just does a lot of good things trying to make students a little more comfortable with the application process.
I have one more question that sort of is somewhat related to Mr. McCarthy's question in terms of generating interest in clubs and activities and things like that. I love the idea of the extracurricular fair or club fair at the beginning of the year. But I guess a couple of questions. One, most of your clubs have an academic advisor of some kind, yes? No? Okay. And I would imagine that some of them also have officers, or no?
Yep.
Most.
Okay. Is there ever an opportunity for officers and/or senior members of the clubs to interact with freshmen or sophomores during times like advisory or morning meeting or things like that to sort of drum up business? If there's not, we can ask, but.
Oh yeah, I completely agree there. There is probably times, but the thing is, I feel like there isn't times like specifically delegated towards these people. Like advisory, which you mentioned earlier, there's kind of like structured periods of time, you know, where people are like having discussions within class. Morning meetings, you know, they're having weekly announcements, they're having kind of things going on, so there isn't like specific times that are delegated towards this. I definitely do think that there is time that could be used towards kind of getting these freshmen, when they're getting into high school, kind of a little bit more known about the opportunities that they're able to get into. And I feel like even maybe just having them all go with a club a day, or maybe hear like that with the have a presentation from like the president or like the officers would be very useful in kind of getting them involved within the clubs and kind of knowing what could fit them as a student.
I'm wondering if we can, you know, think about some fresh ideas like that for next year to incorporate you guys who have that experience, to share your experience too with the incoming students. I mean, you won't be there, but you know what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, great job, guys. Doing surveys is very hard, and trying to go and get good answers out of it can also be difficult, so I think this is a great little snapshot. Just a couple questions on the student support services, because that's one of the things that, you know, we can try to go and support. Did you guys do any further diving into the no answers or the I didn't use any?
Well, seeing as all these were submitted without tracking the students' emails, we couldn't go back and just say, like, hey, you want to elaborate? But I believe on the original survey that was given to students, there was one more question that basically said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email this email, and we'll get back to you. Sadly, not one student out of the 160, 50-ish didn't respond.
I would be curious, and maybe when you guys are passing the torch, to maybe go and suggest adding that thing to kind of qualify that answer if you don't use the services. But, you know, why is that? And maybe trying to go and do some follow-up, because I would be curious to know, is it an issue with social anxiety? Is it an issue with language access? Is it an issue that you know, someone doesn't use those services? You know, not everyone's going to go and say, yeah, I'm perfect and I don't need to go to any of these. And generally, there's some other reason there, and I'd love to go and dig into that, because I think that also goes and helps. And the same thing with, I think you guys had, pardon me, apologize. Things like the availability of courses, and I think there's options there to go in and combine some of these things, but to also go in and find out where people really are and to get them into, be able to go in and build those lessons into existing classes. There might be an opportunity there. If someone goes and hates math, but they say this is how you balance the checkbook, to go and maybe go and introduce that as something. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Other questions? Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. This was interesting to read through. One question on the amount of students that actually took the survey. So 159 is about 8% of the population of Malden High School, a very, very small amount. Correct. I'm just thinking in the future, and you both are seniors, am I correct? So you won't be here in the future with us. So I'm saying this out loud in the hopes that maybe we could incorporate a future survey similar, and maybe, I never like to use the word mandatory, but maybe implement it during morning homeroom, those 15 minutes where Mr. Mastrangelo does, his announcements over the loudspeaker and says, don't forget, go into your Google account, take the survey, blah, 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 because 159, we can do so much better when there's 1,900 students in the high school. So I'm just curious, how long was this survey put out? Was it open for a week?
So the survey was put out, I believe, the week before February vacation. It came out via email, I believe, that Monday before vacation, but that link did not work. So I put together a flyer. 200 flyers were printed. An email was sent out saying that they were going to fix the link. Link was never fixed. Thus, so many students that could have had the opportunity to fill it out never filled it out, which led me to putting up 100 flyers around the building and distributing another 100 directly to teachers. And we see how that panned out, only 8% responding. But I tried my hardest.
Well, and honestly, with the obstacles on the road, I'm impressed that you got 159 through flyer drops. And so kudos to at least getting the word out when it didn't exactly go your way. So very good job. I am curious on what types of changes, the course availability. I just want to know who put bro, I would love to see, and then it dies off. I want to know what he was or they were saying.
I can figure that out, and I'll email you that personally.
And then when it came to the current schedule, and I will say I hear a lot from parents that are not thrilled with our 80-minute schedule. They'd like to see the old waterfall schedule come back. That was, your 7 classes, 45 minutes, or with a break, because I do know that I think it's maybe 3rd and 4th are very popular because you get lunch. That might be one of your lunch periods mixed in there, so you do get a break. But it says that many of those students advocated for teachers. So I'm just curious how those results fall if they were.
They advocated saying, hey, I like the 80 minutes, but give me a break, and then said, it also is strenuous on the teachers, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard for teachers to teach for 80 straight minutes. I think we all kind of feel like that. These amazing educators, they do it every day. I don't know how, but they do.
I'm a huge proponent in changing it personally. I think as we're preparing students for the future outside of high school, that is the real world in which I may work at a desk and I get to get up and walk around and take a break. And we're expecting you to sit there for 80 minutes, which is really tough. So I would absolutely love to see breaks built in as well. And then finally, excuse me. Nope, I think that's it. I was just, next time when you guys are going through your results, I'm very data-driven. You had a couple responses I participated in clubs, and then I participate in clubs because of the grammar. It's separated into 2 separate buckets, whereas it was really 3%. So, but I'm not gonna nitpick when you guys put the effort to do something that a lot of people won't. They just show up for school and go through the motions. So I appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. Just one question from the chair, and it's good that we're on this slide. I do not see the health center listed as a support services because that's in a different category, or was that not an option?
The health center, I do not believe was thought of. It could have been one of the others or none.
Okay.
I don't know. Personally, I didn't think of that.
Okay.
Forgot about it. That's my bad.
Okay. Let me just end by thanking both of you for your help, not only with this survey, but what you have done at Malden High School over the past 4 years. You have left a positive impact. I know you still have a little bit more time, but I've been here with you, and I've seen what you've done, and on behalf of all of us, we are grateful to you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to the superintendent.
Once again, Aiden and Nick, thank you so much. And I know that they work in many, many clubs, and they also guide a lot of students who are juniors, freshmen in the other clubs. So thank you for doing that. I have to say that the Key Club, Nick advocated, and Aiden, for a scholarship for students that had to pay a membership to participate in the clubs. And there's a form that belongs in the school where students can go and apply for that in order to reduce the cost for some of the membership fees. So I have to say thank you so much. You are my angel, so thank you very much for that. If you want to go, that's okay. I know you have a lot of work to do, and thank you for putting this survey together. Yay, gracias, muchas gracias. Buenas noches, entonces. Adiós. All right, so as we move on here, I want to acknowledge all our educators, teachers, and nurses, not just for 1 week to celebrate this, but this is 184, 185, and 365 days of work. The same thing with our administrative assistants. It's a great work that they do in our schools, making everybody feel welcome and taking care of our children. I say babies because to me they are babies. This is an important month. It's the mental health month. So we want to make sure that people can breathe and relax. And we don't have that many days left in school, and I know stress comes, so we want to make sure that people are, relaxing a little bit. And I know educating students is still to the maximum, but also take care of themselves and ourselves. On that note, I have to thank Mr. Bernard and Ms. Horty for actually participating a week ago in one of the mini workshops that they requested about the counseling dashboard. I don't know if they have anything to add to it, but I have to say that I thank you for the questions that you ask, because that is a critical thing for the district to have for the future, to capture how we support students and how do we maximize the little resources that we have. So I personally want to thank you for spending the time with us, with Seth Racine, and my team going through the Open Architects Counseling Dashboard. We are going to move on with celebrations, and this month is the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Haitian Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, and the Cinco de Mayo. On the next page, we are approaching senior year, the class of 2024, because our next meeting is going to happen after graduation. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge the events are happening. We are going to have on May 22nd, the Red Carpet Prom, beautiful event. We are going to have graduation on June 2nd at McDonald's Stadium. Hopefully it won't rain, and we will have it at 2:00 p.m. We are going to have our multicultural celebration on Friday the 24th. We also have a group of students, and thank you to Mr. Gerard Danita for organizing this. Took a group of students from the high school to the District Attorney's Empowering Girls Conference. Thank you for doing that in the second year in a row, and I'm sure a third one is coming. We had our special education open forum. 23 parents came, and I had to give kudos to CPAC members who came and did a presentation, and at the same time, the members were able to provide one-on-one support to the families that were there asking for a lot of questions. So thank you for this true partnership and all the support that you are giving us. We are going to have our early release day tomorrow, May 7th at 11 a.m. So if you hear all the calls from the schools, that is to let you know that please pick up your children at 11 o'clock a.m. as teachers are going to engage on the professional development. We have only 9 days left for seniors, who's counting, but they have only 9 days. We have 27 days for pre-K to 11. So please send your students to school. Make sure that we are going to be there every single day, trying our best so to end in a good note. We have 2 additional summer programs that were not part of the summer programs that are advertised last month. And this is the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative. By that time, we had not received the funds. Now that we have the funds, the CPPI summer program is 5-week long. It accommodates only 30 students ages 4 to 5 years old. You have the contact information for the person, Andrea Wakefield. You have the email in there. The application deadline is May 22nd. If by any chance we have more than 30 students, we are going to go by, they're going to be chosen by a lottery. And if we have more, we will try to hire more teachers so we can accommodate more students. You also have the most time, please start registering students. The information is in there. We have sent information to families, and please just use the information here so you can start registering students for this summer. Moving to the district enrollment, as you can see, it's broken down by school per grade level. We have 6,566 students. From the Welcome Center, we have some applications on the queue, and they're being processed. Now with the online registration, it helps a lot. Setting appointments, we are able to process things in a very rapid way as soon as all the paperwork is submitted. If not, personnel from this Welcome Center contact families to make sure that they have all the information needed to enroll our students right away. So we have 5 students. The application is in the queue for 5 kindergartens. Even though we have only 27 days left, we will enroll students until the last day. We have students in grade 1 to 12, 26 applications on the queue. For kindergarten, we are already processing 284 applications. And this is wonderful, so we don't have to see any of the long lines that you remember 3 years ago. Yep. That, thank God, doesn't happen anymore. We have some schools that don't have seats available in certain grades, as you can see them at Beebe, Fairway, and Salemwood. Now, last month, school committee asked about special education programs and to give more specific information about this. This is current enrollment, so this is not any projected enrollment. This is the actual enrollment as of last Friday. So things can change. Sometimes we have more students, and sometimes some students leave the district. We have 5 different programs as a district where you can see we have the ILP, the language-based program, PACE, Pathways, RISE, and the overall enrollment in programs is 320 students. That doesn't mean it's all the students in special ed, but these are the students enrolled in very specific programs. We do have more students in IEP, but these are students that just belong to these programs. So I'm going to go one by one, and I know I have my great team of special ed educators here, but I'm going to go quick, and Pam and Stephanie, in case there are more questions from the team. So we can see that in the language-based programs and also the intensive learning programs, the enrollment is from the ELC to Salemwood. Then we have Lyndon that has the only language-based program in the district. We have PACE that only exists in Malden High School and Beebe. We have Pathways that is only at the high school and serves grades 10 to 12, and it's 29 students. We have RISE program that is in only 3 schools, Linden, Sellenwood, and the high school. And for the next slide, you're going to be able to see the enrollment is in the small box per program, and then the definition of each of the programs. Sometimes, you go through the program studies, which is a lot, but in here you have the mini description of what each program is all about. So you will have pathways, PACE, and RISE. And you can also have the language-based programs definition and the intense learning programs. So as you can see, we do have a lot of students in intense learning programs, but our enrollment for all the students that have IEPs that are not served under any of these programs is 1,368 students. But in here, we don't have the entire enrollment because it's only students enrolled in specific programs.
Let's stop there.
Sure.
Because the next item is the Student Opportunity Act?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Let's see if there's any questions so far from the members. And then we'll go on to the last item under the superintendent's report. Let's go to Ms. Horty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Superintendent, could you just clarify that, what you just said one more time for me? 300 and, I don't remember the exact.
20?
20 is the students that are involved in the specialized programs. But then students who either have IEPs or receiving special ed services total in the district is
1,368 students.
That actually wasn't what I was initially asking, but since I'm there, I figured I'd clarify. I just have a couple questions in regard to the different programs and the students that, their time spent during the day, I guess. There's a lot of information here, and I just want, hi, thank you. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this appropriately. So when I look at the ILP programs, it appears that that this is geared specifically towards students with an ASD diagnosis, and it also appears that they are looking to be included into the general ed classroom. Is that right?
Yep, and it
Okay.
also depends on their IEP and their different levels. And what we've tried to do over the last few years is Forestdale's is the kids that are mostly included, and then Ferryway and Salemwood are our sort of most high need students, so that we can pool our resources. So that's sort of worked out well, and of course it's always per their IEP, how much they're included and not included. And I will say, we are very different from most districts. Our number one category of disability is autism, which is rare in this state. For most people, it's either SLD or health ADHD. Our number one area of disability is autism, and you can see that in the numbers we have. And I say, if you build it, they will come. Our early learning center is phenomenal and has a great reputation for servicing students with autism, and so they come, and so we see that. And the reason your numbers, and I might be saying too much, the reason your numbers at the ELC are much higher is because sometimes students come in and they start off in our ILP programs because they start off in the autism programs, and then they gradually move their way out as they gain the skills, which is great, but that's what you want to see.
And I have a question in regard to the language-based program as well. So those students mostly have language-based learning disabilities. For those of us maybe who are unfamiliar, usually the default is dyslexia or something on that line, right? So my question is, for those students then, are they also in a similar situation in that they're probably receiving more instruction in terms of reading, writing in a smaller setting, and then maybe larger setting for, everything includes reading and writing, but maybe for math? Or something, or is it pursuant to IEP straight?
It depends on their levels and
Okay.
where they are. Some of the kids are in the language base for all of the subjects. Some go up for science and social studies, some go up for math. But it's a newer program. We just started it this year. It's really taken off and doing really well. We have coaching from Landmark, which is the premier learning disability school. And so I think it's been a good program for us. And it's the kids are really flourishing in it. We might need to think about expanding it, because as the kids get a little bit older, but they're doing really well, and we have a great young teacher who's very enthusiastic, so we're thrilled with that program.
And can I ask one more question? Sorry, everyone. In terms of the Pathways program, I've noticed that there's a significant amount of students there without an IEP. Obviously, all of the other programs are based specifically on your IEP need. I know that Pathways addresses different needs, but can you tell me a little bit about the admission to that program, both with and or without an IEP?
So I'm going to say you don't need, if you have an IEP, it doesn't preclude you from being in the program, but it also does, you don't have to have an IEP to be in it, because it's not a specialized sub-separate program. It's mostly for students that are overage and undercredited. We do a lot of work with them. Those of you who've been to the Pathways graduation know we do a lot of work with them. We have a Saturday school, we have Graduation Academy where they can come after school to get more help. And you know, when you're a 17, 18-year-old and you only have the credits of a 10th grader, it's really easy to get discouraged. So this program really works on giving them online classes, a special sort of trajectory of, you're missing these 3 classes, how do we get you these 3 classes and get you out? Because, you know, a lot of these kids are 17 and 18, but are only looking on paper like a 10th grader. So we work really hard in the 2 or 3 years they're in that program, hopefully 1 to 2 years, to move them forward and out. But the criteria really is that overage, undercredited, and just not having success in the mainstream. I think that, you know, Malden High is really big, and so this is a smaller program, and it really works for some of our students.
Okay, one last question,
Okay.
I promise. I noticed that in the breakdown on the next, or maybe 2 pages later, I'm sorry, on the ILP at Ferryway, it says that it specifically uses ABA. Is that a Ferryway specific?
So
Thing?
both Ferryway and Salem would use ABA.
Or do they both use ABA?
And
Okay.
Forest still uses a little bit of ABA as in discrete trials if that's in their IEP.
Okay.
They all use the ACES program curriculum, which is based on ABA. So that's infused in all of our ILP programs. It really depends on their level, and some kids don't quite honestly respond to discrete trials, so
Right.
it really depends, but most of the Ferryway and Salem Wood students, their programs are more based on ABA.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Ms. Spadafora?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not a special ed question, if you guys want to sit down, although maybe it is. I don't know. I'm going to touch upon district enrollment. So I just quickly was looking at our September numbers to our current numbers. So we went from 6,275 in September to 6,566. That's a large jump. And specifically, as we talk about the programming that we're offering in Malden Public Schools, our out-of-district went from 66 to 77. I'm just curious what type of outreach we do with parents to let them know that there's programming. Not every student is meant to come back into district, but what are we doing for outreach to say, okay, maybe, and Ms. McDonald, as you smile at me through my own trials and tribulations of offering 45-day placements and saying, maybe this program will work, or after 45 days, doesn't seem like it's the right fit for the student. So just curious.
So we've been working really hard on that. We have quite a few families that we're talking to right now about coming back. I will say, we did in September, we had a number of students, I think we've discussed this, the number was artificially low. We had a number of students that were in between placements in September that were awaiting new starts. So the number in September was artificially low. We had students that had been out and had to change placements. For instance, Manville is a school that is always tricky because it goes to 10th grade?
Manville goes to 10th.
Right. So that always causes a little bit of an issue because now you have to find a new placement. So there were a couple of situations like that, and then we also did have a few students that went out of district during the school year. But Tanya McDonald and Joanna Rizzo, who is the program manager that oversees that, they're working really, really hard at that. I do think like our language-based program has kept kids with us. And as we further develop the ILP and put in things like the ACES curriculum, I think that will help as we shore up our programs. And, you know, sort of, Mr. Weldy, who is here, the Forest Hill had for a long time all of the kids on the autism spectrum, but it was too many and there were too many different needs. So now having the program across 3 schools, we can sort of specialize, and that's what you see when you see the Ferryway, the Salemwood, and the Forest Hill. It sort of specializes in where those kids are so we can meet those needs. So there's a continuum between the 3 schools, which is coming along, and I have to thank Stephanie because she's been helping me with that for the last few years. I think the ACES curriculum, as we build that program and we really have a continuum of services to offer, I do think that will help us.
Thank you. Yeah, I 100% agree, and I've heard from so many parents that are so happy for the language-based program in particular because their students had spent some time at Landmark, got the skills that they needed, and then came back in district. But that's so disruptive to the education process if we can do it in-house. So I'm really happy to see that. And, you know, 3 to 5 grades, I'd love to see it grow.
Yeah.
But I'm really impressed with the level of services that we're providing in programming. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, thank you.
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to the second item under the superintendent's report, the Student Opportunity Act.
Thank you. The Student Opportunity Plan is actually a 3-year plan. When I came here, that was already approved, so now we are in a new cycle where we have to approve a new plan. It's a 3-year plan from 24 to 27. The Student Opportunity Gap was funded in 2019, basically because of COVID, when the state recognized that there were going to be gaps in learning, and at the same time, they wanted to make sure that we are going to have evidence-based strategies and also programs and plans for these students. We had to identify groups of students. We had to use data to identify the groups. And we had to also come up with plans to address this subset. So the plan that we have is a continuum of what has been in place from 3 years ago. In our data, we had to analyze a lot, and I want to acknowledge Ms. Peña and also Heather. Yes, thank you for all your work. At the same time, for Ellen and Carmen for all your work on the data on M.G.Ls. So looking at this plan is to improve rapidly the language base of students, the knowledge in math. So our focus will continue being literacy and numeracy. We have been working with the curriculum implementation that has been absolutely outstanding. We see the improvement, we see the data on how students are learning how to read and reading at grade level. The same thing with the numeracy. So the plan will be to continue with the integration of high quality, equity-centered literacy and math curricular. We want to continue also with the comprehensive social emotional learning initiatives, and I want to give kudos to Erin Craven and also Charlie Connerfree for the new curriculum. So those are the areas that we are going to propose to the state to continue with the improvements in literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learnings. But then when we go to the subset of students, we use MCAS, iReady, IXL, and Access to determine that our subset of students is students with disabilities, multilingual learners, and at-risk students. The focus will continue being supporting curriculum implementation and also using the mental tier support systems to make sure that students are going to be able to access learning because they're also we are taking care of their social emotional components. So what we are proposing is to continue increasing the professional development for teachers with coaches in the schools and making sure that all our areas of improvement are going to be monitored by monthly data cycles at the schools, making sure that there's teachers' effectiveness in implementing lessons, and once again, with the support of coaches. For the target support, we want to continue with the comprehensive summer programs that target academic and social emotional needs. When I came here, I know that high school students had to pay for courses, and we didn't have the middle school summer credit recovery. So that is something that we implemented, and we highly, highly recommend that we continue doing, because in the middle school, when we offer to 5th to 8th graders to make sure that they will master the standards missed during the year, and it actually supports them to be promoted to the next grade level and avoid students from repeating the grade level multiple times in middle school. We know that if students stay back in middle school multiple times, by the time they go to high school, they're going to be already off track because of age. Now, the courses that are offered in the summer are very intensive based on skills and standards that the students need to practice for the next grade level. For the 8th graders, I have to thank the high school teachers who actually become the teachers. So when students are ready to move on to high school, they already have built a relationship with staff from the high school. They are oriented to what services are provided in there, and they're ready for those, with those skills. And we know that they still attached to the teachers because now they have mentors. But we want to, that's something that we are proposing to continue with the free of charge credit recovery for students in the middle school and in the high school. We also want to make sure that we continue with the literacy and numeracy throughout the year to support students. So the areas that we are going to request, and that is on page 31, is to have the implementation of multilingual learners, instructional coaches, K-8, 1 in each of the schools, and 2 at the high school level. Then we are proposing to have special education instructional coaches at the K-8, 1 per school, and at the high school 2. We need more staff to support our teachers on how to unpack and address the ELD levels that are happening. We have more newcomers coming, and so it's very challenging for teachers to have ELA 1s and 2s, and then they have to plan a lesson. So we believe that having the coaches will help them to be able to scaffold the lessons so the students have access to that. The same thing with special education, how to unpack the standards and to make sure that students are going to be able to master the standards. So right now we have literacy coaches and math coaches, but we are trying to see if we can have special education instructional coaches and multilingual learners coaches. We want to continue with the partnership for the TNTP Pivot Accord, which is the high quality implementation of materials and professional development for teachers. So that is the proposal that we have. That is to continue with what we have in place, but to enhance it by giving target supports to each school and the students who need it the most.
Questions of the members? Any questions? So you're asking us to vote to?
If we can, yes, yes.
Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the Malden Public School SOA plan to be sent to DESE as requested.
Seconded by Mr. McCarthy. All right, any questions of the members? Everybody understand? Just from the chair. So you send this in when, if approved?
We have it on the queue. I just have to say that we actually approve it today, and it would be, it goes into the review, and then we put a proposal, an amount, but I cannot disclose it because I don't know, and it's up to them to grant us some money for this.
And how soon might that be?
Probably before the end of June.
And
That's
is there
what we hope.
any obligation on the district to match any of that funding?
There's no financial obligation. The only thing that we had to do is every year the new superintendent and the team have to make sure that there's evidence that we are spending the money the way it is intended to be. And that means with data, the data side, everything's set up to make sure that this is monitored, saying that what we said is going to happen is happening.
And how long is that good for?
It's 3 years.
And then what?
Hopefully, the state will renew it again for 3 more years. This is more for the COVID recovery of gap in learning. So we hope that it will continue more years, but this is a great opportunity for Malden to receive services or some additional funding without the matching, without any commitment, except that we have to do the work that we said we were going to do.
Got it. Thank you. All right, seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, so that carries unanimously.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, everyone, now let's go to subcommittee reports.
I just wanted to say, yes, please.
Oh,
yes.
sorry, go right ahead.
I just want to say, class of 2024, you are amazing, great leaders. We work so closely with you, and because once again, our June meeting is going to be after graduation, I wanted to say that we are here to celebrate with you all your accomplishments, families, all the teachers, guidance counselors, leaders, everybody involved in the community. We hope that you can come on June 2nd to celebrate with us all the accomplishments of the class of 2024. So go, class of 2024. Yay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. That's it.
All right, so now budget subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Budget Subcommittee met twice in April, on April 8th as well as April 29th, and I want to thank the members for dealing with me juggling some meeting dates in April. The committee reviewed the recommendation in our last meeting that came from the district that would bring our budget to a balanced budget. So before walking into that meeting, we had a total requested budget of $94,745,636. Our budget at $93,389,664. So that equated to a deficit of $1.3 million. The district presented our current open positions that have not been filled and that have no employee attached to that position. It was the recommendation of the district that we close the open positions that were presented to us and utilize the salaries attached to them to close our deficit, therefore bringing the budget to be balanced. That was a little bit less than $1 million. In addition to that, we had talked about moving, so some positions were moved to our 240 grant, which is our special education money. So some, paras or ESPs, I have to get better at that, that are working in the special education classrooms. We were able to move those salaries onto that grant to save some of our Chapter 70 money, as well as move some of our, if I'm correct, Superintendent ESS.
That is correct.
Okay.
Contracted services,
And that
yes.
contracted services equaled about $200,000. So all in all, with those moves, that brought us to a balanced budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. It did pass out of Budget Subcommittee unanimously. So right now, the committee is kind of just at a standstill.
Yep.
Waiting for next steps, which is our finance office is putting together the budget book. That will then come before the committee as well as the public. We're working on scheduling the potential public hearing for the very beginning of June as well. So just.
Okay. There you have it, everyone. So motion by Ms. Spadafora, is there a second?
Whoa. We have no motions on the table for this.
What did we just take it under advisement?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions from the members as to where we are and where we're going? All right, seeing none, let's move on to, we already took care of the Superintendent Search Committee.
We are all set.
Okay. Let's go over to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. She's going to tell us what's been going on, policy and procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met again on April 29th. Mr. Bernard, Ms. Macklin, Assistant Superintendents Pena, Kelleher, Rojas, and McDonald were all in attendance. We did approve the draft minutes for the March 26th meeting that we had held. Then we introduced the program of studies. Assistant Superintendent Pena explained how this document makes it clear for families, and it should be user-friendly. She reviewed the process, which actually does, which was interesting. It starts back up. As soon as this one will get approved, they actually start preparing for the following year. So it's an ongoing process. I actually want to follow up with you folks because I thought it was very interesting. The recommendations from these two students made me start thinking program of studies. It gives a lot of information. So again, we get input from, so to do the process for getting these program of studies, you get input from the teachers and directors. They look at enrollment trends, and they look at how we can use resources and allocate those to see what classes need to be done. Highlighted within this, there's some different updates in it. The new grade 4 grading system, which was piloted as part of this. There's a new homework policy under consideration, and how the honors pathway is being updated to include grade 5. And the committee is actually in the process, it's a long document, so we're all in the process of reviewing it. As Superintendent Noriega Murphy knows, I just sent a whole bunch of comments to her with different questions and things that I was looking for clarification, and the rest of the committee will be doing the same. We also then took a look at the student and family handbook. Assistant Superintendent McDonald presented the handbook to us, which should again be used as a reference for families. These two documents do have a lot of similar parts to them, so they need to coordinate. So again, some of the things that did show up, though, the updates which we had done, full committee approved, attendance policy update was in there, about grade 5 being added to honors pathway, and the homework policy. The vandalism policy would be in there as well, which we had already approved. We also will be having, which we'll have to take up when we get it, more direction. There are new Title IX decisions at the federal level, which then get worked through DESE and then down to us. So there's a whole section in the book that will have to be updated at some point to incorporate those. And this year, the Code of Conduct has been included in the handbook, which is a change. That had been a separate document. It's nice to see it all included in the one. And the subcommittee, again, is also reviewing this draft then we'll have another meeting to, see if there's any changes and potentially approve that. And the last thing we did discuss was a reviewing of the actual school committee policies. And we actually wanted to sort of check in with folks. To look at these, there might be spending money involved in this, and we know that with the current budget situation, we don't know how far we should pursue things. Should we be looking at costs? Should we be taking it as different parts? Is it something that we should send over to budget to take a look at? So kind of looking for guidance right now before we can then take our next steps on making any type of motions and resolutions. So we wanted a little input from folks and kind of the history of, if this has been done, when's the last time maybe we did things. And then we adjourned at 7:59.
Thank you, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Any questions? Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So should we expect to see all of these come out of policy before the June meeting?
That's the hope. That is the hope. But again, we're just looking for any guidance from folks where people feel, we can go and, we're happy to do it. Go and get cost estimates, find out what it's going to be. But if there's really, we know it's a tight budget. And we thought, well, to preserve resources, should be looking at a different venue. Should we look at a different way to try to go about this? Instead of doing a total review, should we be looking for highlighting priorities? Like is there a general consensus? We just don't know how tight the budget, we know it's going to be a very tight budget. So the idea of coming back saying, gee, can we have more money? Sort of weighed on us for sort of our next steps. What would be, if anybody wants to weigh in on what?
Taking the budget constraints aside, which I definitely think we could do maybe a joint budget policy meeting to include the finance office, and maybe start to look at ways to implement policy changes, additions, upgrades, whatever it may be, in a fiscally responsive way. But as for just like the handbook in general, I'm just
Oh, yeah, the handbook and
making
that's
sure
going to be met. That's
come-
a separate thing. This
Okay.
is, yeah.
That was
those were
my
meeting,
question.
those will get approved. This was a
Before
separate.
our
yeah.
next
Yes.
incoming class comes,
Yes.
we'll be prepared. Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. I would just say from the chair, on the city side, our approach has been just to not start anything new.
Okay.
That's our approach in the upcoming fiscal year. Try to hold on to what we have and see whether or not some of what we've been advocating for at the state level happens.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
all right, very good, thank you. Now let's go down to motions and resolutions. Two donations, you want to take them up separately, I presume? Or one can roll into the other? Let's take up Stone and Bank.
Yeah, let's take them separately, just because they're going to two different entities. So the first donation is Stoneham Bank has been a generous contributor to Malden High School over the past 2 years. They've donated funds to purchase yearbooks for students that experience financial barriers. They donated a welcome back lunch for staff in the fall of 2023, and have continued their generosity with a $2,000 donation to help defray the cost of all the end-of-year activities for the class of 2024. So their generosity is boundless, as our appreciation, and I would like to make a motion to accept this very generous donation from Stoneham Bank for the class of 2024.
Motion, seconded by Ms. Macklin. Any questions on that, everyone? And I will send a note on behalf of the school committee to the president of Stoneham Bank. Madam Clerk, we need to roll call it, or we can just do a yeas and nays? Yep, I think 2,000 was the amount. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, that carries unanimously.
Thank you. The second donation, again, a generous donation, actually comes from an educator at the Linden STEAM Academy. So Quincy Butter is an RBT at the Linden STEAM Academy. And in his letter, he wanted to do something special, extra special for our students. He has been quite involved, or they, excuse me, in field day each year. And this year was hoping to assist by bringing a donation to the school. Their partner's grandfather is 92 years old and does a bunch of independent philanthropy work, and was asked if he would be able to support the school by giving a donation. He has graciously said yes, with a $500 donation to be used for the Linden Field Day Committee to figure out what they can do with it, whether it's equipment upgrades or whatever it may be. But this is specifically a $500 donation to the Linden Field Day Committee.
Okay, motion by Ms. Spadafora, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Any questions, everyone? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, that carries unanimously. We dispensed with the third item under motions of resolution, so now we're down to points of personal privilege. Left to right. Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last Thursday, the 2nd, Malden, Ferryway PTO had their International Food Night. The mayor was there. It was a good time, even with the lousy weather. A lot of great food, a lot of happy kids. It went very well, and it was nice to see it back. I think this is the second one since the COVID, so it's good to see you there. Fifth grade dance on May 30th. Tickets are now on sale at the school. You need a ticket to get into the dance. It's sold through the office, so you can see it there. Tomorrow, it was already said, early release. Picture day, Wednesday the 8th at Ferryway. Dress up, kids, you're getting your picture taken. PTO meeting has been moved to this Thursday at 6 o'clock. Go to the Ferryway School PTO webpage. It's a Zoom meeting. They don't meet in the school, so just log into there. $1 ice creams are back, kids. Bring a buck. Get them on the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. Your choice, $1. You can't beat it. Memorial Day, no school. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the teachers. We've been through that. You guys do a great job. Keep up the good work, because we need you. And last but not least, Mother's Day is right around the corner. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and caregivers that do what they do best, nurture our children. That being said, there's breakfast on Sunday the 12th from 9:30 or I'm sorry, from 9 to 11:30 at Anthony's, that Councilor Peg Crow has been fortuitously running since the mayor himself started it many, many moons ago. He was a young lad at the time. So it's free, it's open to anyone in the
Don't
city.
laugh too much on that one.
Please come in, you'll enjoy it. We've been doing it for a lot of years, and it's a lot of fun, and it's one of the few things that we look forward to. And one quick thing, I just want to say, there's been a lot of stuff going around. I mean, I thought we went through it enough last year with the superintendent and certain groups, but now it seems they're picking on someone new. And what Ms. Spadafora said earlier about determination, getting the work done to get to the budget where we needed it to be, one person in particular, Ms. Mertz, has done a spectacular job, and I've worked with her for the entire 9 years that I've been on the committee. And, you know, come on, people. We're adults. I mean, we have a bullying policy for our children. Do we need one for adults now, too? I mean, Tony, you do a great job, kid. We love you. All right? So,
Thank you.
I just want to know we appreciate it. Thanks, boss.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Over to Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of items to throw out there. We're going to have our third annual Maplewood Fest at Maplewood Square, May 18th, rain date May 19th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. There'll be live music, dance, artists, kids' activities, food, and fun. If you want more information, check social media and contact our esteemed Councilor Winslow. The second item, we're going to have our fourth annual Caribbean American Heritage Month, June 1st, rain or shine, 1 to 4 p.m. It will be hosted once again by the Gray family at 295R Lebanon Street, Malden. There will be, as always, a live steel drum performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Gray. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few announcements from the Salem Wood here. Ms. Van wanted to go and express, wanted to thank her fellow principals since May 1st was Principal Appreciations Day. She wanted to thank her fellow principals for all they do each and every day. She also wants to go and sincerely thank the staff at the Salem Wood for the outpouring of thoughtful gifts and messages, and that she feels very lucky to be working at the Salem Wood and in Malden. Tomorrow, I think it's been mentioned already, but it's an early release day. So make sure that parents and caregivers are picking up their children on time. On May 10th is the K-4 art show, and that's from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. On May 15th, Wednesday, is the kindergarten grade 5 family bingo. That is also in the K-4 Cafe. Reach out to the school to go and purchase your tickets in advance. The 17th, we've got the spring group and individual picture day. And then no school on the 27th because it's Memorial Day. And then on the 30th is the grade 6 International Food Festival from 2:15 to 4:30 p.m. in the K-8 Cafe. And I've got one other here. And then Ms. Van also wanted me to go in and thank all of our teachers, our nurses, and all staff because it's their appreciation weeks. We all know that you work hard. We all know that you go and you put up with a lot. And you know, on behalf of Ms. Van, also on behalf of me, thank you for doing some hard, sometimes very unappreciated work, if not from parents and students. But my mother was a school nurse for many years, so I really appreciate the work that you guys go and do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Let's go to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to take just a second to thank everybody who was involved with the Superintendent Search Committee. It was a lot of work, and people actually they did show up and bring a lot of insight and very valuable input into getting to our final decisions. I also want to say congratulations to Lyndon for the job well done, the folks who planned the craft fair. I actually was able to go and got some great items. It was great to see there were actually students who were selling things that they had made, which was wonderful to see them at their booths and handling money and having to talk about things and making sales was fantastic. And I look forward, I know that they're already talking about what they're going to do for their next one. So that was fantastic. They do have, at the Linden, they have the Spring Art Show coming up on June 5th from 5 to 6:30. They do need some volunteers to help out on June 3rd, 4th, and 5th to actually help get all of that artwork up. You can get in touch with the PTO of the school. The 17th will be their multicultural night from 6 to 8 p.m., which is a free event. On May 31st, the Student Council is having an event, a teen night, that they're doing. It'll be outside on the plaza with music and different events that they're planning on having there. And that's for 5th to 8th graders. They've been very active. They actually have also planned on June 1st. They'll be doing a car wash and a tie-dye at the school. Their hope is that the tie-dye, that people will do the shirts sort of in the colors that they'll be using for field day. That will be 12 to 3. If you bring your own T-shirt, it is $5, but if you need a T-shirt, then that cost would be $17. The car wash fee, they were still working out, so that's on June 1st. And the students, it's impressive, they raised about $1,000 so far. And they have decided to sponsor shout-outs and tied this into what they do with their PBIS program. And they're donating gift cards to their fellow students, so they get sort of a second chance at getting a nice reward, which I think is remarkable that they thought when they had this money, they decided, let's use it for our peers. So well done, I love that. Their field day will be June 7th, 8th grade moving up, June 12th at 10 o'clock with a dance that night. And also a wonderful thing that they took on, which was started, I hope I say your name right, Geraldine 2, had started, she's doing donations of different dress-up clothes, shoes, ties, jewelry for kids who might be in need for those moving on ceremonies and the dance that they have that night. I understand it's been an amazing response, which speaks very well to that Linden population of stepping up. So if you have a student at Linden who needs something, that's a resource for you. Kindergarten, June 6th, they'll have a moving up ceremony. And out in the community, the Zonta Club of Malden and the Lions Club of Malden have joined forces to host also during Porch Fest. The event will be rain or shine, though, from 12 to 4 at the Salemwood School. There's the iMobile is showing up, and they will be giving free eye exams and also free blood pressure screenings. For the iMobile, they actually have purchased specific equipment so that kids as young as preschool can actually go in and get a free eye exam. So we're excited about that. They are asking if you want to, you can donate old eyeglasses and hearing aids. You can bring them to that event. Sweet Memories is a band that will be playing. They have an eclectic song list. I've just seen their set list. They'll be performing from 12 to 1. It's going to be part of a health fair. So there's also Bread of Life will be there, MOA, Bridge, Dana-Farber is going to be there, ADME Tech, providing information on a lot of different issues from skin cancer to prostate cancer, obviously to the services that we have in the community to help out with people with food insecurities. And that is on the 18th, and that's 12 to 4, rain or shine at the Salemwood. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Horty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At Forestdale this week, on Friday the 10th, there will be a sensory-friendly family fun night from 5:30 to 7. Please attend if that's something that interests you. There will also be a upcoming band concert at Forestdale for grades 6 to 8 on Tuesday, June 4th at 1:15. I believe that there's also a choral concert. I don't have the date in front of me, though. I apologize about that. Out in the community, Porch Fest is on May 18th. If you've never gone to Porch Fest before, I highly encourage you to. It's a great way to meet people within the community, both your local neighbors as well as different areas of the city. There are lots of different folks who have blocked their street off, and it's really just a great way to introduce yourself to others and to learn about, there's a lot of community activities that day, clearly from everyone else's announcement as well. So it's just a great opportunity to get in touch with the people in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. So a reminder, CPAC is hosting an event tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. on Zoom with Malden Public Schools in Desi in regards to special education and civil rights discussion. So you can find that information on this Malden CPAC's social media pages, my social media pages. I believe probably a robocall, Connect Ed call will be going out from our special education department. Also, this isn't for the community, but I'm just going to celebrate my excitement for the ponies are coming back to Pace at the BB School. Yes, I'm looking. Where is she? There she is. This Thursday, the Pace ponies are back. And if you watch any of the Cadbury egg commercials, 2 years running, two different ponies were actually finalists. And we are so lucky to have these ponies that come into the BB School for the day and hang out with our students in the PACE program. So I will be sharing pictures of all the little ponies. Happy 375th anniversary to the city of Malden. I just wanted to throw that out there. And tonight, the Malden High School baseball team won again. What was the score, Mr. Freck? 5-3. 5-3. They're on a roll. And just lastly, if the chair would oblige to adjourning this evening's meeting in honor of Frank Stella, an amazing Maldonian who, if you've ever driven past the backside of Malden High School, a beautiful, beautiful mural that was created by Mr. Stella.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Anybody else before we entertain a motion to go into executive session? Okay, hearing none. Just don't forget, try to clear those schedules for next week. We're going to need you for 2, possibly 3, although it could be 2 next week and 1 the following. We'll just have to see how it plays out. And then we will have a meeting on the budget, a public hearing, despite my attempts to just pass it tonight. We'll have to do that coming up in early June. Yes. All right, so, all right, without further ado, we'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session for the 3 purposes outlined at the outset of tonight's meeting. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummond? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spadafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Harty?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes. School committee will now be in executive session.
Thank you, Fox Translation. We'll see you on June 6th.
All right, the school committee is back. We'll entertain any further motions.
I'd like a motion to adjourn in honor of Mr. Frank Stella.
Motion to adjourn in honor of Frank Stella, seconded by Ms. Horty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. The school committee is hereby adjourned in memory